And there we go. All right. Good morning, everyone,
Awesome.
and welcome to another episode of the Aware Athlete Show. As always on the show, we're not concerned with ribbons and trophies and medals, but with the invisible trophies and the things that last a lifetime, the reasons we do what we do. And so, having said that, our guest today is Perry Newburn, and we're going to have a fantastic discussion this morning. So Perry is an ultra runner, and let's just dive right in. Perry, I just turned 70.
Hello, Scott.
Yeah, I just turned 70 years old
Stop.
this
Sorry, I
year.
missed that last bit, Scott.
I just turned 70 years old this year, and I'm assuming you're a little bit behind me.
Yeah, you're 4 years ahead of me, Scott, but I'm catching up quick.
If you want to look at
It
it,
seems like it some days.
Yeah. How is New Zealand, Perry?
New Zealand's wonderful. I mean, I think the whole world has gone through some strange things this year, hasn't it, with the COVID stuff? But New Zealand's been pretty lucky, and I think we've dealt with it pretty well. So it's yeah, we're sort of all on that level one where things are fairly normal around the country at the moment. So that's a good thing.
Excellent. Yeah, I've heard you haven't had too bad a difficulty with the COVID thing.
No, we've seemed to have, stopped it coming in a lot, or stopping it at the border anyway, the quarantine stage.
So you're just heading into the warmer months of the year.
Yes, we're in the last week of spring, so week's time we're heading into summer for 3 months. So it's we've gone through that spring type fickle weather where it's it can be warm one day, it can be cold the next day, it can be wet one day. It's
Right. We're
a lot
just
happening, but I love it this time of year.
just heading into the winter here, but it's been pretty mild, so I enjoy the winter too. Do you get up in any elevation for your runs there?
No, not where I am. I'm basically at sea level. We're right on the coastline, in the Hawke's Bay area, which is East Coast, North Island. It's a beautiful area. The weather's wonderful. It's we've got to go inland really to get any elevation, but the mountains and whatnot are in the North Island, probably 2.5 hour drive away, so it's not too bad.
Oh, yeah. So it's so amazing that we can conduct this conversation from so far away, so many thousands of miles.
It's amazing, isn't it? Modern technology.
Yeah. So let's get into your running. Can you tell us about your growing up or whatever your journey along the way, whatever it is that led you to running?
I grew up as a young person. Sport was all around me the whole time, so I was always into sport from probably 5 years old. Playing field hockey, cricket, which are probably games that aren't too common to the American people, but it was sport the whole time, right through to the end of school days, basically, and first year university. But then things got a bit haywire in life, and silly things happen, things probably I regret now, but hey, you can't change what's happened over the years. It's just one of those things. But running was still there in the background. It's I never really got into major running though till later in life, and I remember late 40s saying, I'm going to set a goal, I'm going to run one marathon by the time I'm 50.
Yeah.
So I managed to get that one marathon in probably 6 months before I turned 50. And it's the old story, isn't it? I'm going to do one marathon and one only.
Yeah, just one.
But that one happened, I finished, and I thought, I can beat that time. I can do better than that. So the following year, I went back and did the same marathon. And then one year I did 6, then 7 marathons in a year. And it just built from there. It's and then one day, the running club I joined, I was again late into joining a Harrier club. It was one of those things. I always looked at Harriers, they're runners. I'm not a runner, so I'm not going to join that Harrier club.
Right.
But I had to change that mindset. Anyone's a runner. It's anyone, doesn't matter abilities or whatever. Everyone's different. Everyone, but everyone's a runner at the end of the day. So that mindset changed. I joined the Harrier club, and they actually ran a relay, which was a 67K relay, and the odd person did it solo. I used to look at these people thinking, how the heck can a person run 67K? Yeah. I used to be the same with looking at people who can run a 42K. Why? Yeah. So one day I tried that. I loved it. I actually loved doing that distance more than a marathon. It's not quite sure why. I came off better. I felt better at the end of it. Maybe I paced myself better. Yeah. Well, but yeah, it grew from there, 67K, 100K, 100 mile. And then after a wee while, I'd watched some of the people in New Zealand and overseas who did some of these charity runs. And I thought, that's a great idea. I'd love to do a charity run sometime. And then in New Zealand, my old hometown, Christchurch, had a major earthquake, probably about 10 or 11 years ago now, where 180 odd people died in it and caused a lot of damage. So I decided to do a run from Auckland to Christchurch, which was a distance of about 1,000 K. And I looked at it and thought, okay, I'll do it in 15 days. That would be averaging 70K a day, and see how much we can raise. I set a goal of $10,000 for the Red Cross to go towards that, and achieved that $10,000, and it actually ended up $20,000. Wow. And I made it to Christchurch in the 15 days, very sore. Could hardly walk the next day, but it was an experience I loved, and then it just grew from there.
So tell our listeners about your goal. You had a goal for when you turned 60, or you had a...
Yes, a goal for when I turned 60. I remember watching Dean Karnasis's run across America, and I thought, boy, that would be brilliant to do. And in the back of my mind, it was always there. And coming up to 60, building up to 60, I thought, okay, let's make this my 60th birthday goal challenge. So I set that, and it was, I joined a group which was set up by two sisters from Utah. Angie Webb was one of them, called the Moon Joggers. A fun group where, in a sense, they call it the Moon Joggers. They set a goal of running 1,000 mile in a year, I think the sisters did to start with. And then they thought, if we invite a lot of people, we can virtually, adding all the miles together, virtually run to the moon and back, hence the name Moon Joggers. So I talked to Angie quite a bit, and we decided, okay, let's have a go. Angie became my support crew, and we set the goal of running in the year of my 60th, and it actually ended up in the spring, I think it was, no, autumn in the States, because I arrived in the States 6 years ago, 2014, and started the run from New York on the 1st of September. And I set that 1st of September thinking, going on New Zealand, that's our first day of spring, so that's bound to be the first day of summer in the States. I think it worked out to about the 20th of September was the first day of autumn. So those first couple of weeks going out of New York were fairly warm, and coming from a winter in New Zealand, which is mild compared, but it was, I was roasted. But that goal, it was, I loved every challenge of that.
Now, so you can't really prepare or train for something like that, can you? Or how did you?
You can't. As what I did and what I set myself as running. I was running about 200 to 240K a week, which is around that 130 odd to 140 mile per week. And I was setting back-to-back runs where I was running like today. I've already been out and covered 21K this morning, so that's 13 miles I've already done this morning. And I'll go out at lunchtime and do another 10, 12K. And then in the evening, I'll do probably another 10 or 12K. So basically 2 or 3 runs a day, back to back. And then weekend 2 runs, long runs on Saturday, Sunday. So I was not doing a 70 or 80K run in one hit a lot of the time, but I was doing back-to-back runs and teaching the body, okay, you have a break, you start again, you have a break, you start again, which was in essence what it was going to be like running across the States, doing those major runs. It was, yeah.
So you'd get in some miles in the morning running across the States, and then you'd take a break, and then you'd do more in the afternoon then.
What I really did, I kept going, and the breaks were short breaks in essence. It was, I actually started off, I was on the road, say 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And we keep going probably till 7 or 8 with little drink breaks and whatnot in between. I'd probably have a slightly longer break of some breakfast or something like that at 7 or 8. And basically it was just leapfrogging the day like that. Short break, keep going again, short break, keep going again. And sometimes I just had to walk, run, you know, just break it up throughout the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think in essence what I averaged going across the States was about 94K a day, which was 50, probably in the 50, 54 mile per day average.
Yeah. So how many years or how long have you been doing 2 or 3 runs a day every day? Do you do those 6 or 7 days a week, or
I do it 7 days a week.
7 days a week?
And I've pretty much been doing that for 7 or 8 years now.
Yeah.
That sort of distance.
Right. So you're ready for anytime somebody says, "Hey, let's do an ultra," you're ready.
I'm ready.
That's awesome. Very,
well, if I look at it, since our first day of the lockdown we had for COVID, and that was about 245 days ago. This year, I've done it again. I've done it in the past. I've kept a running tally of my mileage or the Ks I've covered. So in the last 245 odd days, I'm up to close to 8,000 Ks, which is close to 5,000 miles.
Wow. All right. So you are terrifically inspiring, 66 years old. And what can we do? We can just keep doing what we love.
We can. You be careful. You can pretty much do anything. It's you know, sometimes you've got to balance it as to pull it back slightly or increase it slightly. It's just and I find, I mean, I'll always get some niggles, but generally I've been pretty lucky with injuries.
So I've watched you run a little bit as I can in the videos that I can see, and you look like you have a really efficient ultra stride. You know, the short stride and a nice steady cadence. You look wonderful doing that. You look like you could do it all day.
And I think that's something that's probably changed from the initial stages of running through to that, being able to become more and more efficient. And sometimes I probably changed subconsciously rather than doing it consciously.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when we have all those hours in our body and nervous system, our brain gets a chance to experiment, we kind of find what, if we're paying attention, we find out what works, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing too, as I've said, it's teaching the body that you can start again after a small rest. Often people will go out running, they'll get their running and then they'll stop that run and they won't be able to start again for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But it's first of all mentally changing the mindset to be able to, yeah, it's achievable to start again.
Yeah.
So,
especially if you've been out in inclement weather. Let's say you've been running in rain for a couple hours or something. You come in and get a quick change of clothes, a little bit more to eat and drink. Makes a big difference. You can go back out again. Yeah.
Oh, too right. Too right.
Yeah. Do you have any idea what your heart rate is on these runs that you do all the time?
No, I've never been a great one to follow my heart, exactly what my heart rate's doing. I do that by feel, I suppose.
Yeah.
And if I feel okay, then my heart rate's is good.
Yeah.
It's,
What tells you when to back off?
there'll be days when the breathing goes off skew. There'll be days when just the legs are feeling heavy. So it's I drop right back to sometimes a run walk situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I find sort of after even half an hour of doing that I slowly build it back up again. It's and again, I suppose it's what I've learned in the mind, I suppose, over the years is subconsciously, I know, in a sense, I know what I'm doing. If someone asked me to explain it like you've done, it's a very difficult thing to
Absolutely.
do.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. So, what about, you said you've had a few niggles. Can you comment on that? Do you ever have any problems with knees, ankles, back?
No, probably the biggest problem I've had probably a year after, or 2 years after the States run, the plantar fasciitis was a major one, and it just came from out of nowhere. I'm not quite sure what caused it, but I was one of those people that no, I'm not having the rest to make it better. I attempted to run through it, and I did keep running, but it probably took a lot longer to recover from that than I would have liked. That probably affected me for a good year, that the plantar problem.
That can hang around for a while, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You just
the other one, the only knee problem I've really had is tripping over a tree root and landing heavily on the knee on a gravel road. That affected me badly for probably 6 months. But again, that's not a straight knee problem. That's from landing on the knee. So, and probably my cadence and everything changed slightly during that period of time because I carried on running, of course.
Yeah.
So I was catering for that injury the whole time. But the last sort of 8 months, I've gone through a process of strength building again on both legs. So, and that's worked great.
Okay, so you do a little cross.
And I'd say I'm back. I do those strength exercises more than anything. It's rather than probably out either swimming or bike riding or doing something else. It's and probably I wasn't good at that in the early days. Much better at it now than I used to be.
So tell us about your strength training routine.
It's straightforward. I've got strap-on weights, so that I put around the ankles, and they're probably 2 kilogram, 1 kilogram weights. So it's so I'm just waving to the wife goodbye. She's just popping out for the day. Hi. Yeah, those strap-on weights, they're 2 kilogram and 1 kilogram weights. So I lie in the back and do leg raises, side raises. So I'm doing all that, and another one with especially in the quad, just the area above the knee, sitting on a chair and standing up on one leg, doing that.
Yeah.
Probably 20 times on either leg. So I'm trying to do those roughly each day, at least every second day.
Yeah, that last one you mentioned there, kind of the one-legged knee raise, but starting from the chair, that works on your balance a little bit too, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's again. I remember going to a physio and he said, "Look, stand on one leg," and I thought, "Whoa, my balance is way off."
Yeah.
So yeah, I've done a lot of work on the balance side of things too, and I think that's important the older you get.
I would really agree with you on that. noticed some clumsiness in myself that may not have been there 5 or 10 years ago. So yeah, you have to keep your awareness up and work on that balance for sure. Balance
Yeah,
tends,
yeah.
yeah. I think running is good for your balance actually, but
Oh,
yeah. Do you run at all on in the mountains?
I like hill running a lot. Never used to, but I enjoy the variety in terrain. It's I mean, I've always been a road runner as such, so I
Yeah,
prefer road to any sort of service. But yeah, if you put me on technical type trails, then I'm in a sense not very good in speed wise on those sort of terrains. I enjoy it for the scenery and the beauty of the areas. But if you ask me to run reasonably fast on some of those terrains,
that's quite a skill in itself.
it's a skill.
Yeah, it's definitely a skill. uh,
And I think the reason, I mean, New Zealand's becoming more and more a trail running community than the roads. It's probably more and more difficult for road events. New Zealand, maybe worldwide too, with the health and safety requirements these days.
yeah,
It's, but any chance I get, you'll see me on the roads.
I love that. Yeah, you're out there all the time. Yeah, and you have. Do you still use your trademark orange vest?
I've still got
Yeah,
it. I've still got one of them. And whenever, I mean, the roads around locally, I'm fairly careful on, so I don't wear a vest as such on that. But if I'm running at night time in the evenings where it can get a little bit unsafe, then I'll definitely have the vest on.
yeah. So we're talking about
And that's
safety.
one vest is probably one I'll never get rid of. I'll always have it.
Yeah, yeah. When it wears out, you'll just have to hang it on the wall. Huh?
Exactly.
Yeah, can't part with it. So we're talking about safety. Can you tell our listeners what kind of a lighting system you use at night so that you don't get hit by a car?
Again, I mean, the headlamp, of course, it's, and I've got a flashing red lamp that I put behind me. I've had the, I can't remember the name of it, and I was given it in the States. One that goes around the shoulder and around the back, but it's flashing lights up and down, so you can see it for miles. It's,
Yeah,
and I think these days you've got to be so careful out on the roads at night time. It's, you're not so just looking at how safe you're being yourself, but you've got to be watching cars in front, behind,
yeah,
just all over the place. So I'm a firm believer, if you're running down the road, if this is going to take an extra half hour to get to a point that it normally would for safety, then I'll take that extra half hour. That's,
yeah,
I prefer to be there, get to
yeah.
point B rather than
Step off the road and
not.
walk a little bit rather than be hit.
So it's, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So it's, and I mean, I always, depending on where I am at night time too, on some open roads, I'll run with traffic coming behind me, depending on corners and whatnot. And sometimes I'll be on the opposite, running towards traffic. But I'll always find if I'm running towards traffic with a headlamp and I'm on running towards them, then they're going to be a little bit confused with lights coming towards them. So it's, again, you've got to try and think, okay, what would the driver be like in this situation? So you're not only thinking yourself, you're thinking, yeah,
yeah,
outside the square.
yeah. So you've put in a lot of miles without having too many close calls with automobiles.
I've been lucky over the years, yeah. Probably a couple of close calls, but that's relatively minor compared to what it could have been. It's,
Yeah. Do you have a?
I've never had to dive into a ditch or whatever because of a car.
Yeah.
It's,
So how much sleep do you get every day?
I'm probably averaging more now than I used to. 7 or 8 hours a night.
Yeah, that's all.
So again, I'll go back to the run across the States. I started off in the first couple of weeks of probably between 3 and 5 hours a night. After about 2 weeks, that was getting too much.
Right.
Once we adjusted that to 5 or 6 hours per night, that actually worked out perfectly.
It did. Wow. That's amazing.
And if I was doing that sort of run again now, probably that 5 to 6 hours per night would be adequate.
Wow. So you get in 2 to 3 runs a day. After you do that, of course, you have to eat whatever you eat. Let's go there. What's your nutrition like?
I'm probably a fairly good eater. I've just had some breakfast, but that's some grains and whatnot. It's lunchtime. I'll probably have some tomatoes on toast or something like that. So I'm not having much, or even just honey on toast. I'll always have a big meal at night time, though, and that tends to be my main meal of the day.
Yeah.
And I'll often be back for seconds. The funny thing, and one of the funniest stories I tend to tell people, my nutrition and running across the States, people would have cringed at it in a sense.
Well,
They're one of the main shops food-wise, and I'm not saying it has to be good food, but you think you could easily find in the States going across?
well, of course, the convenience stores.
Exactly, McDonald's.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I often I would say to the support group, how far to the closest McDonald's, and they would Google search, and okay, it's 10 mile away, the closest one, right? I need a coffee and a half a dozen hash brownies or something like that.
Yeah.
And they would shoot off and grab that.
You know, that's
chocolate milkshakes. Chocolate milkshakes I loved during the daytime.
It's not uncommon when people are running that kind of distance to have, their diet's not optional or optimal, because you got to get the calories in. And
it's
it's
getting as much food into you as possible.
So Angie went with you. When you came to run across America, that was your first visit to America?
First main visit, I've been to one of the airports changing planes before, I think in Los Angeles, going to London years before that, but I'd never actually stayed in the States. So that was my first visit.
So that had to be a little...
And what a way to do it.
Yeah, no kidding. That had to be a little confusing. How did you plan your route? That's a tremendous amount of planning that would have to go into something like that logistically. You need support. You need to know where you're going.
I was pretty lucky. It was Angie had agreed to be support person from the start, so I had the support base worked out, and she had a fairly big family. She had a relatively big family who members of the family came out and joined her throughout. So she always had company, which was probably more necessary than me needing company. So that side was good. The planning the route, it was straightforward. She did that. We had a general idea going across. There were minor adjustments at various times, even while we were moving. So it was getting from, say, Parker, I think it was, on the border before we came across the Mojave Desert. She was doing adjustments. Okay, should we go down through Phoenix, or no, it might have been just before. Should we? Yeah, past where we were going to come down through Phoenix or not come down through Phoenix, and we decided to come down through Phoenix a couple of days before that. We were trying at that point to stay away from the heat,
right?
But it actually worked. It actually worked out relatively well, and I was probably more adjusted by that stage, getting near the end of the run. So I remember going across the Mojave. It was probably I'd meet the van or the car every mile for a while, and I'd fill the hat with ice.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to the van again a mile later, my head was bone dry. It was, the ice was gone. So we adjusted, and I ran through the night going across to Mojave, and that was great.
The desert is rough. You definitely need.
So we did a lot of that. Adjusting at times.
So you met Angie through the Moon Joggers group?
Through the Moon Joggers group, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did she stay with you?
It just happened to be
She stayed with you throughout the entire.
Sorry?
She stayed with you from New York all the way to the West Coast?
Yes. Yeah, she was there from day one through to the end, through to Los Angeles, which was absolutely brilliant.
She deserves a giant shout out then. That was a lot of work.
Most definitely. It was I've several times throughout the run, I made a point of saying, okay, this is Angie's support day today. So, the amount of work that she was putting in. I think she said afterwards, she loved every minute of doing it, but she's not sure that she'd be able to do something like that again.
Well, no, yeah, that would definitely getting into more than you thought you were to start with for her, yeah.
Oh, yes.
She had to be doing all that driving during the day, scouting out the routes, and you followed major highways?
We were close to major highways. I know we did a lot over, there was Route 40, there was Route 66, the old Route 66, we did lots of it. It was, but yeah, the side roads at times, the major highways we were on, and they were great to run on.
Yeah.
So
she had a giant cooler of ice and all of that, and food with her probably too, water.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. And
it was easy. I mean, going through town, she'd make sure that it was all stocked up. There were times when she'd ring ahead if we didn't have accommodation to try and organise accommodation in various parts. And we were lucky. We were hosted on quite a few nights too, so that was brilliant.
So you spent some nights in motels and some nights being hosted?
Yes. And being hosted was brilliant because, again, meeting new people and like-minded people, it was great.
Yeah. Well, you got.
And for me to see that extra part of America, if you get what I mean, it's going into people's homes. It's I didn't just see the surface of America. I was seeing, going deeper, which was great.
Yeah. So you didn't have any place to really lay down if you needed to take a break during the day, or could you do that in that SUV or car? Or?
There were times when I could just sit down and relax. It was but I never wanted to sit down and relax for too long during the daytime.
Yeah.
I always had the back of my mind, if I sit down for too long, will I be able to get going again?
So with all this, you were able to live that dream of running across America, which, very few people in the world have ever run across America. There's a number who have, but not very many. And
yep, I always say it's a dream, and dreams can come true. That's and young people growing up need to hear those stories. You can you can have a dream. It mightn't happen straight away, but down the track, you might have the chance for it to happen.
Yeah.
And go for it if you get that chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Young people need to hear that. I need to hear that. I've got a few dreams, and you're inspiring me. One of the things that inspires me is you had this dream, and you contacted somebody. You made it happen, really, with the support you needed, but with actually minimal. You just got out there and did it, and it came together for you.
It was very lucky, and I think I was very lucky to have met a person like Angie who was, really helped make that happen.
What is she doing now? Are you keeping it?
And to me, sometimes we see a goal, a dream becomes a goal, but we often in human nature, we try and find the hard way around making that happen. It's simplifying it down as much as possible and looking at the simple ways of doing things. That simplifying process back to basic human nature, I think it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wonderful, Perry. You know, you have this goal, and maybe it's a little out of your realm, but you could do most of it, or you could do it a little bit differently. You could do it the way you can do it. Um,
Mm.
yeah, in other words, you know, I know that I think the record for running across the United States is 46 days. You didn't do that, but you ran across the United States at 60 years old. So that's, I mean, it's inspiring. It's inspiring. What we can do is so
Oh,
much.
and I loved it. I think it was 51 days, 19 hours, and about 40 minutes. I think it was to be
Yeah, well,
exact.
yeah,
But time really wasn't what it was about. It was about getting out there doing it. It was showing, yeah, at 60 you can do these things.
exactly. That's what it's about. That's awesome. I appreciate you saying all those things. Um, so, so we've kind of covered the planning. Do you still keep in touch with Angie?
A little bit, yeah. I'm still a member of the Moon Joggers, so I'm probably keeping in touch that way. I think she's gone off to do her thing, and I keep in touch with her mum and whatnot a bit.
Yeah. She's
So
doing well, I hope.
again, lovely people.
Yeah.
Lovely people.
So night after night, all these nights across America, you got to see how families lived in different parts of the country, and I think that would be fascinating. You know, there's
Oh, I loved it. I mean, going through some towns, and some towns were almost ghost towns. And suddenly there was one new building in amongst all these broken down buildings, and it might have been a post office or something like that. And it was just, I mean, I remember going across the Mojave Desert, and halfway across the desert, and I looked across, and I had to shake my head to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. A for sale sign in the middle of the desert. I think you can't be real. That can't be real.
yeah, there's property out there you could buy.
It was, I mean, just the diversity of the whole country. It was wonderful.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, it's yeah, it's a good thing you didn't run across the Mojave in one of those sandstorms they have. I've driven
Yeah,
some of those.
I've heard it. Yeah.
All right.
But again, I remember running across when I ran, running at night time across the Mojave and seeing the little tarantulas running across the road and whatnot. And I think, yeah, I used to call them my furry little friends.
So,
but it's yeah.
So you're extremely inspiring here with this story, but you've also been very dedicated, putting in a lot of training. After you get done with your 2 or 3 hours of, or 2 or 3 runs a day, how much time do you have left in your day?
I'm fairly busy. Still at home. My wife and I. We've got a 27-year-old still at home who's very, very high needs, special needs.
Ah.
So a lot of work involved there. Once I've finished this talk, I've got to get him up, get him showered, cleaned up, and whatnot, and settled for the day.
Yeah.
So in between, there's running. There's ensuring that he's looked after. Some days Fridays probably I call my rest day from running. I do 20K in the morning, then I go out and do 4 hours gardening at a rest home. So that's for something different, and probably that's a little bit of cross training too.
Yeah, yeah, move your body a little bit different way. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's relaxing as well. So there's not often in the day where I'll sit down and totally rest.
Yeah.
A lot of the day I'm on the go. In the afternoons after school, I've got a group of probably 10 or 12 young people who I help with their training during the week. So that's I enjoy that giving back process to the young people. Ensuring that running doesn't become a chore as such. It's got to be fun. They've got to enjoy it.
It's got to be fun for sure. In fact, I've heard you say something before that I really agree with, and that is a lot of people will go out and they'll try a little bit of running and then it's not fun, so they don't go back to it. But if they had made the first one less than they could do and make it fun, they'd be a lot more likely to come back to something that was fun.
Well, I always say to people, if someone says, what should I do to start running? I said, for your first week, I would probably go out and walk. If you feel like running a little bit, run for 100 meters, then walk, then run.
Yeah.
But when you get home after that first 1 or 2 runs, you almost feel as though you've done nothing. And the reason behind that is I've done it myself in the past. I've gone out on that first run after not running for a while and I feel great. So you tend to go for it a little bit. And by the time you wake up the next morning, you're that sore, you think, oh, no, I'm not going out again today. Yeah. So you don't give it a chance to become a habit as such.
Yeah, if we want to be
that way. So
we have to keep
set the routine to start with of getting up and getting out. Might be 4 times a week or 5 times a week. It's and I say to people, you don't have to be going out 7 days a week, 2 or 3 times a day like I do. It's that's totally different. That might be if you feel like it in 10 years' time doing that sort of stuff, but it's got to be enjoyment first to enable you to carry on doing it.
Exactly, and very incremental increases. So tell us a little bit about those the young people that you help with their running training.
It's a group. It's I set different runs for every day. I do a speed session, I do a fartlek type session, I do a hill session, I do an easy run session, I do the long run on a Sunday session. It's and long run varies from age groups. Most young people say they're 14, their longest run might be 10 or 11K. So I don't like them doing too much. But they, again, have got to enjoy it. I break the runs up. It's not like, right, this is an easy run. We're going at 6-minute K pace for the whole run. They might go at 5-minute K pace for a while. I say, okay, do this K in 4 minutes and then drop it back. And so it's varying the runs the whole time. It's every run often is not the same. I've got about 5 different hill type places for hill sessions. I've got different speed sessions. I do some of it's on grass, some of it's just on concrete, on footpaths and whatnot. It's so it varies the whole time.
Yeah.
And if they've got that variety of stuff, then they're going to learn. Every now and again with some of these older ones, if they're 16, 17, I'll give them a task, right, you're taking this next session, it's going to be a speed session. I want you to come up with what you think is a good speed session. So they're thinking about what they're doing.
Excellent, yeah.
It's, and I think that's important because often they won't have a coach or someone helping them along at various times in their life. So if they're thinking about it now, they're able to do that during those points. They're able to, okay, I can set my own training regime to a certain extent.
So with a lot of the kids that you help, you actually run with them?
I run with them, yep.
So your own training then includes all those things, the fartlek, the speed session, the hills, and things like that?
So it definitely, and that's often after I've done 20 miles in the 2 runs previous to that in the day, then I'll come out and try, and the operative word here is try and keep up with some of the young ones.
Yeah, well,
there was a stage when their fitness isn't quite up there, I can keep up with them, but the beauty is watching them slowly increase and pass me and whatnot. Is I love it when that happens.
Isn't that something? Yeah, you actually enjoy them because they're so young and able. You enjoy them getting better than you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So describe your own. What's a fartlek session for you like?
Again, I'll vary slightly. It might be okay. The next one I've got planned is I'll do a warm-up lap of the this park we go to, and that's probably just over 2K. Then I'll do, warm-up exercises to get everything set. Then we'll set it going 30-second jog, 60-second stride out, and we'll do that 10 times.
Yeah.
And depending on age, some of the older ones might be able to get up to the 15 stage on doing that. And then we'll have a warm down session, but it's those 60 seconds is going reasonably hard out after the first couple.
Yeah. And what is a speed?
And I've got varieties of that where that's 30-second jog, 60-second stride out, 30-second jog, 90-second stride out, and the stride outs, there's 90 seconds, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. So it's increasing their stride out times as well.
So, okay, for you now, you're talking about 90 seconds. That's enough to run quite a distance, depending on your pace.
It is.
So, what kind of pace would you be doing for 90 seconds?
Especially the young ones. I mean, it varies.
How many meters would you cut? Do you do that on a track, a speed session, or a...
No, we're again doing it around a park circuit. So there's a pathway that goes around this park. It's and it's 2.1K around the park.
So how many meters would you?
And probably the 90-second, they're getting maybe 2 and a bit 90 seconds per K. So with the young ones, it varies. Some of them on those stride outs are getting down to about the 3-minute K pace. Then there's a group that's around the 4-minute K pace, 4-minute 30 K pace. So.
And for you at 66, what's the pace?
I'm probably about the 4:30 mark still, 4:15.
Okay.
Yeah, 4:15 probably in the stride outs.
Yeah, so I'd have to kind of convert in my head. Do you know what that would be per mile?
4-minute 30.
It'd be under
5-minute K pace equates to
8 or 9.
Probably 9. Yeah, 6-minute K pace is 10-minute mile pace. So 5-minute would be 9-ish.
Yeah.
4-minute 30, 4:15 is getting into the 8 mile pace.
Yeah. Okay.
So probably I'd be around that 8 mile pace.
So you do your regular long run.
5K run. I'm probably still doing in around the 23, 22, 30 mark. Not fast, but it's comfortable.
Yeah, well, it's pretty fast, I think. For at 70, I couldn't do that yet, but I'm training. I retired this year, and so now I've got more time for training, so that's nice. But so let's get back to you're helping these kids. How many days a week do you do that?
I do that Monday to Thursday after school and on Sunday.
Wow.
Sunday morning, easy run, long run.
So what charity did you...
So I tend to do a couple of sessions on a Sunday morning. I set one for 7:30 in the morning, one for 9 o'clock. Knowing young people like a sleeping, but I tend to do both anyway. So I end up doing 25K or so in the morning, which is good. I enjoy that.
So what charity did you run for when you ran across America?
Had two. There was I can't remember the one I ran for in the States. There was a state-based one that Angie knew. But there's a New Zealand one called Kudo Care. And what they do 2 trips a year with young people. It's like Make-A-Wish. And they take a group of young people who have either had cancer or they've suffered badly with disease-wise or injury-wise, cancer, you name it. the ones that are able to travel long distance, they take to Los Angeles for two weeks, a 2-week holiday. So, and do a lot. So wonderful, wonderful organization. For ones who can't travel too far, they take to Australia for a week or two. So again, giving young people a chance, young people who have suffered, it's pretty close to my heart, that sort of.
Yeah. So, one thing I didn't ask you about with all those miles across the United States, I mentioned the knees and so on. What about your feet? Do you have any
Feet were good.
Your feet were good?
Feet were good. I took it over 6 pairs of shoes. And I still had a pair of shoes I could wear back home. And I had to make sure I had one pair of shoes I could wear, because I didn't have enough room in my bag to take a spare pair of shoes for me to wear. So I had to wear one of the running shoes going across and one's coming back home. So it was, yeah, but the feet handled it well. What I did, I would have 2 pairs of shoes on the go, where I'd alternate one day, the other shoe the next day, and I'd alternate that way till they'd pretty much done 1,000 Ks each. And then I'd go into the next 2 pairs of shoes.
Oh, okay. So you, over the years...
So I'm a firm believer, a good pair of shoes should last about 1,000 K, about 600 mile.
Yeah. And the mileage you do, you have to change them fairly often. But how much experimenting did you have to do over the years to find shoes that actually didn't cause you any problem over those very, very long distances?
I spent a lot of probably the first year or two, when I got relatively serious into the running side of things, I'd be chopping and changing shoes all the time. But then I came across one pair that just seemed to suit, and they actually lasted, probably, I kept wearing those for the next 8 years.
Really? The same model?
Yeah, on and off. But it was the trouble with some of those shoes, the subtle changes they made each year.
Yeah.
After about eight years of wearing that one pair of shoe, they will start to wear out horribly on one side. And I put that down to the subtle changes they were making. Maybe it changed my gait slightly, I don't know. But
you never
now I tend to wear a slightly more cushioned shoe. So it's
yeah.
And at the moment, my probably main go-to shoe is the Saming, the Swedish-based shoes, Saming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I find them relatively good.
They work pretty well for you.
And getting good wear out of them.
So you not only inspired me already with being able to go out there, and you didn't get bogged down in the details. You got the support you needed, and you lived one particular dream. We talked about running across America, but there's other runs you've done, but you did that. And not only, so that's very inspiring, but what difficulties have you run into along the way? Running that far, you must have had some low spots, and even in your life, building up to where you are today, such an accomplished ultra runner, you must have had some low spots in your life that kind of motivated you or took you along the way. So can you comment on
Yeah, probably. I mean, when I was a young person, early adult years, I went through a fairly troubled time, I suppose. It's I went to university and whatnot, dropped out a couple of times out of university. Went to Australia. I was probably a very young, shy, no confidence, low self-esteem person back in those days. The one thing, and I've got caught up in the wrong area, I suppose, drugs and whatnot. And I went through a process of heavy heroin addiction. certainly wouldn't recommend that to anyone. But the reason I think was I suddenly found something that gave me confidence, and in the wrong way, but and I got hooked up into that process for a long time, but then I got to a low point where probably overdoses, and I was probably lucky to survive. I had to make a choice in life, and it seems a very easy choice now, but back then it was a very difficult choice.
Yeah.
And it really was all about, do I want to live or do I want to die? I chose a living, and that's when I headed back to New Zealand from Australia, and started to rebuild, I suppose, process, and running became a big part of that. It's, I'd get out and run, and I enjoyed the outdoor freedom, I suppose, the fresh air, and it slowly built my confidence too. It's, so that probably became a big part of my life, and it's one of those things. A lot of people say, do you really want to talk about that at times? And I've got no fear about talking about that part of my life, because if that can motivate one person to take a look at themselves and say, I don't need to go down that track, I want to go down an opposite good track, then that's worked. So
yeah,
that was a major part of my life. It's so I'm never regretting. I can't regret. All I can do is look back and learn from that process I went through, and that becomes a positive.
Absolutely.
So always look on the positive things in life, and you can always keep looking ahead.
Yeah, and so that's rather dramatic. But if we take the low spots on running across the United States, I'm sure there were spots where you're tired. Maybe you don't want to do it anymore at the moment. Can you comment on your mental strategies for how you got through that run?
There were times, probably times, most days, when I thought, boy, am I going to be able to get through this? Am I going to be able to get through today? It was, and I've always found one of the best ways you can do it is break it down. Like, I mean, at the start of a day, I'm not going to look at the end of the day, even.
Yeah.
If I'd started off on the first day running across the states and had that homing in on the end result in Los Angeles, I would have struggled probably, because that's too far away to look. So bringing it back to, sometimes you just got to bring it back to the next lamppost. It's, I'm just going to make it to that, then I'll make it to the next one. And sometimes you start to look, okay, I can make it to 2 lampposts, and within a short period of time, you're wondering, where did that low point come from? Because you're feeling good again. It's just, and I was lucky, so many people came out and joined me at parts of running across the states, some at 3 a.m. It was, and just to listen to people and their stories was motivational.
So, that was, I'm sure.
And to be quite honest, another point was, if I was lacking in motivation sometimes, I just needed to say to Angie, could you get the Facebook page of the run up? And I'd just look at some of the comments, and the comments were just so motivational sometimes that I said, right, I'm out the road. See you in 4 mile, 5 mile.
So that's awesome, because that was really fun for those people that got to actually join in your journey across America. That was fun for them, but it was inspiring for you too. Yeah, some company, and I know when you're out running with somebody, sometimes you can get to know them better during a run than you would if you sat and had lunch with them. So, yeah.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. You become so much more open, don't you? So, yeah.
Yeah. So running is, I think human beings are meant to move, and running is just a beautiful, natural thing. And being outside, I love that.
It is.
I'm in a place where I can go out in the forest every day, and beautiful place here in Oregon. So running gives us so much, and you've been able to give back, and you've also been able to accept some support and probably even some love from the general running community. And so, if
Mm.
people if people would like to follow you a little bit more or hear a little bit more about your story, where could they go to look for you on the internet or whatever?
They could just friend me on Messenger, to be quite honest. And I'm more than happy to talk to anyone. So it's, on Facebook, it's people can talk to me anytime.
Wow.
I tend not to put too much out there, I suppose, in the public arena these days. I don't know. It's just one of those things. But I'm more than happy to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
If I can help someone, inspire someone, then that's great.
Perry, I have so much enjoyed talking to you this morning. That's been really awesome. I got to get a chance to look inside your life, your training. Now I have an idea of how you do what you do because you're quite dedicated to it and enjoy it. So, uh, but I've just really enjoyed this conversation, and I want to thank you for being here today.
It's been my pleasure, Scott, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. So
Yeah, it's
thank you.
wonderful to have you on the show here. So, thank you so much, and we'll go ahead and end this and contact me anytime you want. And I appreciate it.
Yeah, and keep in touch, certainly, Scott.
Yeah. All right.
I'm always looking forward to my next run, and I've got to keep thinking about what I'm going to do for my 70th.
For your 70th. Yeah, you got to look forward to it.
Yeah, I've got to do something for that.
Yeah.
Have to.
I want to, as you're looking forward to that, I want to keep me up on it.
Will do.
Okay.
You never know, I might end up back in the States.
That would be awesome. I plan to be around.
Good one.
All right. Thank you. And
thank you, Scott.
Keep in touch.